3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 116 of Midweek Metagame. I'm HarryMTG, joined by my one regular co-host, Gabriel Nassif.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
And this week, sadly, we're not joined by Pat, but we have on again a regular guest on the podcast, Andrea Mengucci. How's it going, man?
Hello. I'm such a regular guest that I am wearing the official Midweek Metagame hoodie, and under it there is the official Midweek Metagame T-shirt. So I just have all the gear ready for the podcast.
Oh, awesome.
Regular guess is better or worse than special guess? It sounds a little worse, but maybe it's actually better. Now you're just kind of part of the team.
Yeah, I'm the official replacement if no one chose to be the guest, and one of you is missing.
The replacement regular special guest, Andrea Mengucci.
Yeah.
Awesome. But yeah, I guess for those wondering where Pat is, sadly, as he is working at university and obviously has a son, sometimes life gets in the way and sadly had to drop out last minute for this week's episode. So hopefully he'll be back on next week. But, talking about this week, we do have a lot of Modern to get into. For those following Andrea's Twitter closely, as well as his YouTube, we all know that he's been playing quite a lot of Modern this week, specifically a new white-red Crack the Earth Modern deck, which we're going to be getting into a lot. So we're going to be talking about the Modern challenges this week, as well as a bit of Historic towards the end, as obviously Gab and Andrea do play a lot of that format. But before we get into the podcast, as always, we're brought to you by Card Market. For those who don't know what Card Market is, it's a marketplace online to buy anything Magic the Gathering related. Can be singles, accessories, deck boxes, playmats, everything. You should go check them out, as well as you can even sell on there as a seller. So, shout out to Card Market for sponsoring us, cardmarket.com or cardmarket.eu. As well as if you personally would like to support the podcast, best place to do so is at patreon.com/midweekmetagame. No pressure to do so. That's the best place to support us. But yeah, like I mentioned, at the start, Andrea, you've been playing this Crack the Earth Modern deck. Can you just quickly give us a deck tech and also how you found out about this list?
First, I want to say that your introduction to the podcast is among the best one, because I hear a lot of podcasts, I listen to a lot of podcasts. And I think the Midweek Metagame has the best intro, just the flawless, thanking the sponsors and etc.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, the Crack the Earth deck. Well, so Pat is not here, but he would really like to join this conversation because the person who won the challenge on Sunday is a fellow Australian, and actually a friend of mine, Anthony Lee, is from Perth, and he's been sharing the results of his friend who somehow was in the top 8 of a Modern Challenge with Crack the Earth, and another player somehow also in the top 8 of that Sunday Modern Challenge with Crack the Earth. And there's also a third player that I think he lost the win in it against Noama. And he went, I believe, 5-2, maybe 4-3, I'm not sure, but there might have been 3 Crack the Earth in the top 8 of Sunday Modern Challenge, which is pretty insane if that deck was just nowhere yesterday, on Saturday, and all of a sudden it's just, 2 in the top 8 of a Modern Challenge with. So that's really amazing, and that got my attention, and Twitter loved it, because when I tweeted said something like, "Oh, Crack the Earth made the top 8," the tweet got I don't know, infinite interaction. So, and then also the Twitch people really loved it, because also I was going deep. My first 2 leagues with the deck, I was 4-0, and then I lost twice, so never trophied. But the deck was super hot. I was very often going Trocare, Flexible Trocare, Crack the Earth. I don't lose anything, you lose your first land, and that's just brutal. And the deck did that so many times for me, and it was really impressive.
So I guess for those listening that kind of, haven't been following the deck list and also what Crack the Earth does, do you want to just kind of give a little deck tech for
Sure.
our listeners?
Sure, I wrote a deck guide for Channel Fireball in the meanwhile, and it's 1 in a red. It's 1 red because it's a common from Wars of Kamigawa. It's a sorcerer. It says each player sacrifices a permanent. So you sacrifices a card that replaces itself, like a Fluxion of Trocare, or free things like a blood token from Voldaren Epicure or a treasure from Ragavan, or just a land. Sometimes you don't need like a fourth land in the deck, you just sacrifice it, but your opponent goes behind the turn, and if you're attacking them down with a Dragon's Rage Channel or a Ragavan, they just can never come back. You also play Boom Bust, which does basically the same. You blow up your own land and one of theirs, but your lands could be Flagstone of Trocare or a fetch land like Arid Mesa. You can target your own Arid Mesa and then you fetch in response. You don't lose the land, and they do.
Mm-hmm. So it's basically just like an extremely low to the ground deck, 15 creatures, all 1-drops, and then
Yeah,
a load
you
of
play.
disruptive spells.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a meme deck with a lot of junk, but it's like Modern Horizons 2 All Stars. You have Ragavan Channeler, Esper Sentinel, Urza Saga, Prismatic Ending, and then you have Lurrus Companion. So, I mean, it sounds like a meme, but sometimes you just draw all these busted cards and you just, yeah, basically like similar to the Boros deck from Aspiring Spike, the Stoneblade. Like, still, sure, you play like Fervor Champion and Sword of Fire and Ice, but you also play all the super powerful 1-drop from Modern Horizons 2.
I always find it funny when we see decks like these, because the Hammer Time deck started off as a meme, and then as Lurrus and then Saga got printed, it went from like meme to like tier 2, then to just like really, really good. So I'm not surprised that a deck like this, just basically all 1-drops apart from Boom Bust and I guess Prismatic Ending, is going to perform well.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned that the deck also plays 4 Manatite, the 4 spike in white, which is just crazy because you would never think that card is competitive, but you actually just Stone Rain your opponent, they have to pay the extra mana from Esper Sentinel, and then they just can't pay the tax.
Yeah, wow.
It's kind of like a Death and Taxes deck. When you look at the list, the first thing I think is that, oh, is it really going to come together often enough? Aren't you going to have these starts that are maybe not so great opening hands, and then all of a sudden you have all these cards that really don't do anything anymore in your deck, and your whole deck is just so much air. But I guess in practice you just have always pretty good opening hands, and you can snowball and keep the pressure on.
Obviously, there's a lot of like bad things happening. Like if you lose a die roll and your opponent gets ahead, and you just have all this Crack the Earth and Boom Bust, which do nothing. Or I noticed that the more I kept streaming and tweeting about it, the more my opponents knew how to play my deck. And this is not necessarily ghosting. This is just knowing that if I play Crack the Earth, you don't crack your bubble. You just play bubble, and then like it stays there. And now my Crack the Earth does nothing if you have a Mishra's bubble in play. Whereas if you don't know what I'm playing, you just crack the bubble in upkeep. Okay?
Yeah.
Or same thing with playing around Manatite. Like you play around Manatite, like around Daisy and Legacy all the time. You're so used to it, and in Modern people don't. But if they understand what your deck does, they can easily play around Manatite in the early game, in the early turns.
Yeah, I saw this deck list. My first thought was, yeah, that person just won a lot of die rolls and got a lot of good opening hands, and that deck's probably not very good. But you said you were 8-2 in your leagues, I believe.
Yeah,
and you were saying like how all these other people also did well with the deck. So I guess it was great decks. Like kind of if it's an unknown deck, it was just really good.
For sure, for sure. Like I played a couple of matches in a row where my opponent never cracked their bubble, never cracked the Mishra's bubble, so they just basically countered all my Crack the Earth, and then just started playing around Manatite. And you don't have like Brainstorm or Force of Will to use your days on in Modern, so my Manatite just kept accumulating, and I could never leave up like 3 White Source. So yeah, I started losing way more since the third league on.
Yeah. You're saying there's multiple in the top 8, and what's even more surprising is that they're not the same version. The one version has Chromatic Star, which combos was Crag the Earth. So I'm not sure which version you played. You said it was a bunch of friends, or it was just a deck that...
No. So if I got it correctly, the person who made the deck was a German person, which is Kritik, who I think made the top 8.
Yeah.
And then a bunch of Australians took the list and revisited it and like made a bunch of good results in a row and won a challenge, the same challenge. So I think that the original list was published in a 5.0, one of those like 5.0 league results. and then the Australians, changed it and won the thing. So now,
Okay, so they probably saw it this week. It's probably pretty recent, and then it just happened that in the one challenge there was Critic. You talked about the probably
yeah,
original deck builder, and then the Australian
yeah,
players who
yeah.
took the deck and
Yeah, I wonder. His name is Ben. I wonder how many just decks are around that people just never found. Like, I don't know,
yeah,
as Arden Scales or KCI. The cards were there. It's just people found them slower.
yeah,
That
probably not a
Shadow.
ton, but definitely a few. And that's one thing that's been really cool about Modern is that you don't see it every week, but I feel like every other week maybe you get kind of a new deck or a pretty different version of an existing archetype. And I feel like it's been pretty consistent. Yeah, every other week, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, you see a new deck top eight. It was maybe glimpse for tomorrow about a month ago was the current version. Now we have that white red deck. I'm sure there was many others. So there's been
Yeah, but like not only that, also like cards. For example, Happy Sandwich made back-to-back top eight Saturday and Sunday with Hammer Time, and they were playing Lavinia and the Restoration Specialist, like two cards that you never see in Hammer Time, and they were playing one of them in the main deck. So it's like Modern lets you do these things that is so beautiful that no other formats does. You just play cards and play decks, and you can win. You're not like there's not this huge barrier that it's impossible for you to climb.
Yeah, that deck I have it on the screen right now. It's splashing blue. It has the one Lavinia. What else is it splashing blue
Three spell
for?
pierce. That's it. Three spell pierce.
Yeah, there was the one player I forget their name, but they top aided. They had a couple. They won the challenge. They had mana leaks in the sideboard, and
Yeah, yeah,
this
and also a
version.
thieving skydiver.
I had a skydiver. Yeah, so this version spell pierce and Lavinia, but the splash is as free as it gets. Not no splash is ever completely free, but
Yeah, yeah,
the cost is incredibly low.
yeah.
So overall thoughts about this red white deck. I mean, I think it kind of or I guess kind of got people with not many people knowing what the deck is doing. Do you think that now that the surprise factor is gone, it's kind of not as good? Because you said that you weren't doing as well in leagues after your 2-4 ones. So like,
So
what's kind of your overall thoughts of it now?
well, I think that at some point people just because we all know that modern leagues. I mean, people know what's up. You don't just
Hmm.
join with 1,000 ticks deck if you don't know what's going on in the format. So they probably either like saw the list and knew what to play around, and that maybe makes it worse if you just it's still like a super like I really can't wait to play this deck on my LGS because not necessarily because people will not play around it, but also because it sounds like a ton of fun trying new decks. I think that it still can get people. It still can like sometimes you just can't play around Manatite. Like sometimes there's Esper Sentinel among the play. You can't do that, and Manatite will get you. And some other times you just play a deck that doesn't have Mishra's Bubble, and you have to sacrifice a land, like the Omenath decks. Maybe have the one huge problem for me was the abundant what's it called,
Abundant
abundant
growth.
growth. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was a huge problem because they just sacrificed that or Ren and Six because they get back the land that you kill. So there's definitely some cards that really punish you, but again, it's this like cool deck that plays a lot of new cards, super cheap. If you win the arrow, is really good, and if you get the right matchups, it's also good. But it's not we're not like in tier one territory for sure.
Mhm.
I just got so confused. I was trying to look up the results of the challenges this weekend, and I see Mateus F playing Eldrazi Tron. I'm like, oh, Mateus F is back on Tron, and then I see a weird list, and then I see an Uro in the list. I'm like, Uro, what? I think there's just a bug, and somehow for February 8th or February 7th, it just put out some deck list from a really old Modern challenge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I had to go check on MTG Goldfish because
I
it
was like,
was it
wait,
was
is
bugged.
Uro legal? Am I?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's like all the thing, like Alco Astrolabian Legacy is just,
Well,
I don't know, they just uploaded the list from last year.
maybe I just got dropped in a different timeline or something. Something happened, and
Yeah,
timeline where Uri did not get banned. Cool.
no,
But
I think, yeah.
Do you ever play the challenges, Andrea?
Very rarely. I usually just play a lot of computer. I always stay a computer like so much during the week that in the weekend I like to just stop. Although sometimes, hanging out with friends and we just, play a challenge. Usually it's vintage challenge because people here mostly play vintage. So we just play like one or two vintage challenge and a bunch of people. It's very fun to just, basically like LAN party. But
yeah, nice.
I usually just try to play Paper Magic in the weekend. Sorry, just yeah. If I have to play Magic, I play Paper Magic. That's
That's good though. It's nice to get out. I don't do it often enough. I saw my friends for the first time this Saturday. Kind of like the first time I think since COVID where I kind of acted like there was no COVID. We just had 10 friends over for lunch, and then I went out and saw some friends at a cafe, and just hoping for the best. We're all like vaccinated, boosted, I think so.
yeah.
Felt like it.
What I do usually is I go to this friend of mine that has a local game store, and I just sleep at his house and just play all the events, and just stay with him, and just go to eat and play Magic.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean that's what I did for so many years. I would just be at the local game store all day. Then we would go to my place at night or one of my other friends. We'd rotate places. At night during the holidays, we were literally just living there, and then we'd go back to our place, and then we'd cube all night and wake up and go back to the local game store, and that's like the best.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It is.
Uh,
Sometimes I need a little bit, and I just go down there, and I'm very much there's like a very nice community.
yeah, that's awesome. Do you have to go to is it in your city in Senegal? There's that Magic community, or do you have to go somewhere and drive?
No, yeah, it's like 1 hour drive. It's
Okay.
not that big of a deal. But like I go there, I don't go there. Like for example, they have every evening they play tournaments. I would love to go it, but like then I couldn't make it in time. I like to stream in the
1 hour is a
morning
lot.
and
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. I played a tiny bit of Modern. I just played, I think, 2 rounds of Modern, honestly. I played the Sunday Challenge. I went 0-2 drop, was 4-color blink. I got paired against Belcher in round 1, which is a really tough matchup, and they got really good draws. And in round 2, I just lost a mirror match and decided to play a little Arena. I've been mostly playing, getting back into Historic, because we've got a set championship coming up. But we'll get into that later. Is there any other Modern decks either of you wanted to talk about this week?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about one thing that 3 people made the back-to-back top 8 this weekend. That's very unusual. I don't know if you ever seen something like this, but both Happy Sandwich, Bob49, and Mr. Cafuyet made top 8 of both Saturday and Sunday, which is very impressive. I mean, yeah, like it's a big deal. Like these events are what, like 100 people, and managing to do like I don't know 5-2 or 6-2 2 days in a row at least. Sometimes it's 6-1. That's really impressive.
Yeah, that was kind of the other quote unquote big talk, big Modern talk. It was the Think Twice.
No, it's true.
The free Think Twice in Monsieur Cafuyet's list. People were asking me about it on Monday. I was like, Did you see he was playing Think Twice in his blue-eyed deck? And I guess I mean, I can't imagine Think Twice is actually good in Modern, but who knows? I feel like that card was decent when Liliana Abdevale was around. It was pretty nice against that, and even then, kind of questionable. But back-to-back top 8s. I've not been impressed by Blue White in general, but it did win a challenge last weekend. Had good results this weekend.
I mean, he won the challenge. Mr. Cafuyet won on Saturday.
He won on Saturday in top 8. Well, yeah. And then a week ago there was someone else who won with Blue White Control. So.
Yeah. Do you know him? Do you know Mr. Cafuyet personally?
Yeah, I've met him. I think I met him at maybe the last couple French nationals. Maybe we even played He's I mean, people, the running joke is that people think it's Wafo,
Yeah, yeah.
or for a long
No,
time people thought it
no.
was Wafo, but it's just his good
Yeah.
friend who also loves to play Control, and they used to live in the same city anyways.
Yeah, today I got paired against Waffle, and he was playing Black Green Yogmoth.
Wow.
Yeah. And he like did all the things that I would expect. He like slow rolled me a lethal like Yogmoth, two things, a chord for like you just talk so much. Sorry, thought so much, and then like had the kill. And he also like took the full 3 minutes to sideboard, which is a typical Nassif play.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Like in the full 3 minutes, I was there at like a 0-0-0-1. The match started.
Yeah. That's one thing that strikes me when I watch your stream sometimes is that you don't overthinking too much. You try to keep it somewhat simple, and you don't.
Yeah, yeah. When I don't know what to sideboard, I just But I understand your like. I think your content is more. I don't know. Well, deep thought. Like you. I mean, it's not that mine isn't, but
It's also
when it
just,
comes,
yeah.
yeah,
It's the way
like
I'm.
small things.
Yeah, it's
Sorry.
just the way I'm wired, I guess. I just can't help myself. I'm not saying it's necessarily a good thing. I think somewhere in between is usually, you want some kind of balance, but
I still remember that you managed to almost rope in Mulligan decision on Arena, which was during the PT on Arena, which is like so hard.
yeah, it was
You have so much rope.
was that the Mulligan to 5 game or something where I just,
I
or was that
think we
another
were
one?
I think we were playing both Oko or like
Yeah,
Simic Oko or
yeah.
something.
No, that's some tough
Yeah.
decisions.
Good days, good times. Simic
Yeah,
Oko.
maybe one day we'll get to play some big tournaments on Arena again live. You
Yeah.
played some Modern 2, Harry, right? You tried
Yeah,
another white-red
so
deck.
yeah, I did play the white red artifact deck. I believe a lot of people were saying Aspiring Spike built it last week. It came first in the Saturday challenge last weekend, I believe. It was the Esper Sentinel, Ragavan, Goblin Engineer, and what is it called? Like Fiddlebender or something?
Yeah.
Oswald Fiddlebender.
Yeah, it was that deck, and it kind of went up the chain. I played it. I went 1-4 actually. The deck did not perform well for me. Like in theory, it felt like a great idea. Like you have Stoneforge Mystic, Ragavan, and Esper Sentinel, but the problem I found was that you only had 3 portable hole in the deck in terms of removal to remove things, so that was all really awkward. As well as like, I think we discussed like, oh, if they have the removal spell for the Ragavan, hopefully they don't have the removal spell for the Stoneforge. But it's like they always had the double removal. I feel like decks in Modern right now are so creature oppressive, and I was just getting in these really awkward spots, and I just really didn't. The deck didn't really perform for me. It's like I actually never got to use the Fiddlebender in terms of like sacking artifacts or doing things. And the only like I actually don't think I activated Goblin Engineer or Fiddlebender once the whole league. The only reason why I won was Caldra Complete from Stoneforge Mystic or Ragavan Beatdown. So like I found that just the core mechanics of the deck were quite weak, and you're just literally leaning on Urza Saga, Ragavan, and Esper Sentinel, which I don't think is very great. Because obviously the game plan behind the deck should be winning you matches, but it really didn't. To me, it just felt like a kind of a really bad red white Stoneblade deck. Like I also got crushed in like the Spike deck mirror because like Spike's Fervent Champion deck just crushed me because they could get Sword of Fire and Ice and I couldn't really do anything, you know.
Yeah, I've also played that deck once for my YouTube channel, and yeah, I mean, you sometimes do the little Goblin Engineer, Eco Wellspring thing. That's fun. Sometimes Fiddlebender just kind of stops, but yeah, it was mostly good for me because I played against Greentron twice, and I had the like Dumping Sphere and Void Mirror, so I had very easy access to them in all my post cyber games. So that was very cool. But yeah, I
Yeah.
can't assume that it's not the most. Yeah, I mean it's classic modern, right? There's just a million decks that could win a challenge, but maybe like if you play, I don't know, that can also 1-4 a league. Whereas Grixis Shadow, for example, it's really hard to 1-4 a league with it.
Yeah. It definitely felt like a deck that has to have the right draw or you're you're just kind of gonna flop. Like I kept drawing like Lightning Greaves, like it's a 1-up in the deck. If I draw Lightning Greaves, I'm probably not in a great spot. So stuff like this.
Yeah, for me it was Spellskite. I always had a Spellskite around.
Yeah, and I think that's also like I was also doing it kind of like on Discord with friends. It's like the deck is a fundamental problem where if you draw these like very situational artifacts that kind of do nothing against the deck, you're put into a really awkward spot.
Yeah, sometimes just one bad card like that, just it can be the difference between winning and losing the game in grinding matchups. And when you draw more, it becomes a nightmare. I wonder if it's a coincidence that Spike built that white red base deck, or using Sentinel and Ragavan, and that someone else did well was white red Crack the Earth. Maybe they saw Spike play, and they're like, oh yeah, Sentinel and Ragavan and DRC all in the same deck. That sounds like pretty good, but maybe I can do something a little better than all these artifacts. And then they kind of went on in the tank and somehow came up with Crack the Earth. Because it's true, there hasn't been that many Esper, Sentinel, Ragavan, kind of that base, right? People have tried playing in Hammer Time. I've seen it in Hammer Time, kind of put Ragavan in, maybe add some Galvanic Blast and call it a day. But I wonder if we'll see more Esper, Sentinel, Ragavan, DRC, white, red deck show up.
I mean, logically it works because Ragavan makes artifacts, Sentinel is an artifact, and Saga likes artifacts. So it's like turn 1 Ragavan or turn 1 Sentinel really works with Saga, and I think that's why like the deck is like good. It's like somewhat good. It's just like the build behind it, and that's why I kind of believe that this white red Crack the Earth deck is actually decent, because it's like if you draw like the whole idea behind this deck is just disrupt the opponent, so it's like you're stopping the removal spells, and then you're just either making Saga tokens or just beating down. So I really like the Crack the Earth deck for that reason.
Yeah, because usually the red decks, they only have the 8 good 1-drops. Depth Shadow, it has Depth Shadow, obviously you can't play it on turn 1, and now you add Sentinel to the mix, you have a little more consistency. You're a bit more likely to have the double 1-drop draw, or maybe even triple 1-drop draw. And have you thought about that, Mengu? Like other versions was the same shell, kind of with the same creature base, but maybe not the Crack the Earth. Since you played the deck, did it give you ideas, or?
When I was playing Crack the Earth, what I thought was very similar to Jund Saga. Like it had very similar cards, and the Urza Saga wasn't as powerful as an Affinity, for example, where your construct is just unbeatable. Your construct in the Crack the Earth deck is generally not very large, and you don't even have a great selection of things to get. So, on one sense, it felt to me like a Jund Saga deck in which you don't play the Saga on turn 2 to make a construct on turn 3 like you would with Affinity. But instead, it's more like you play as a Saga because this deck, like, after a bunch of Stone Rain, you get to a point where the game stalls a little bit, and you as a Saga, can get huge value. But the deck, as I was going to say that, so I like to own every card, and when Modern Horizons came out, I didn't buy Esper Sentinel because I was like, oh, it only is playing in Hammer Time. I don't like that deck. I'm not going to play Hammer Time. I don't need Esper Sentinel. But recently I bought them because so many decks just spawned with Esper Sentinel. You have the blue-white Affinity deck that won the challenge few weeks ago that Nassif kind of pioneered in Modern, and then you have now all these Boros deck that really just are popularizing. So Esper Sentinel, I think it's a card that everybody knew was super good, but no one really tried to make work in other decks that isn't Hammer Time, and now it's working, and now it's like, really just, I keep on saying that it's just the best start in the format. Like turn 1 Esper Sentinel on the play, I think it's better than like Ragavan or Dragon's Reach Channel or any other star from Modern Horizons 2.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That's fair. Cool.
Did you play any more Affinity? Because I built it in paper. It's so good. It's such a fun deck.
No, I kind of moved on. I started doing a little worse with it. People were a little more ready, maybe, with some hate, and some of the matchups were not great. But yeah, I've got a lot of feedback anyways from people who tried it, who liked it, who won a decent bit with it, and I was having a lot of fun. It does a bit of everything. It's like aggressive. You have some counter spells. You have Urza Saga that's super busted. You have Portable Hold, you have some removal, so it's a well-rounded deck, and it's a fun deck. And the Pioneer or the Historic version was already lots of fun, and I'm really looking forward to Kamigawa actually to see if any of the new cards can improve the
Yeah.
historic version and maybe even the modern version.
Yeah, I'm excited to try the new Dig Through Time in Affinity. That seems like it's the that's always gonna cost 2 mana because you play like 4 Thoughtcast, 4 Thought Monitor. But you personally, I would just play like 8 Thoughtcast if I could.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Should we talk a bit about the spoilers, Kamigawa and modern impact, and maybe a little historic too? I guess I had we did a set review with Scanister, and he was mostly focused on modern, and I used the kind of ratings we gave to the card to come up with a top 10. So should I maybe go from 10 to 1 and we can talk about each card and see if either of you have anything to say about it and do like that? I think maybe that's a good way of doing it.
Yeah, sure.
Love it.
All right, so right at the edge, number 11, I guess, honorable mention, I've got the Planeswalker. I believe he's called Kaito. The Kaito something, blue-black 1. Do you believe in that card, Mengu, that it's good enough to like kind of snowball and
All right, let's read it for the people who don't know it.
all right.
Do I read it?
Wait.
Sure, go ahead.
Sure.
All right. Kaito Shizuki, 1 blue-black, legendary planeswalker. At the beginning of your end step, if Kaito entered the battlefield under your control, he phases out. All right, let's explain what phases out does. A card phases out and comes back in your next untap phase, basically. So
Wow.
it can't get attacked by your opponent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just wanted to confirm. Yes. All right. It says +1, draw a card, then discard a card unless you attack this turn. So it just really rewards aggressive decks, I want to say. And then it's -2, you make a 1/1 blue ninja token with this creature can't be blocked. So of course that plays well with the first ability. And then it has an emblem. It's very late. 7, it starts with 3, so I think when evaluating these cards, I always focus on the plus and the minus.
Yeah, I agree. The emblem's not very relevant. So, yeah, I think this card's just fairly cheap, and you really don't have that many free mana planeswalkers that can kind of snowball, right? Most of them cost 4 or more. The ones that kind of like draws you cards, protect themselves, and that this one's a little different, but it kind of protects itself. You can't attack it the turn you play it comes into play. You can't use a burn spell at sorcery speed, and yeah, in theory, it's self-sustaining, right? It gives you the creature, and then it draws you 2 cards a turn. And if you have the discard, the counters, the removal to protect it, it can just go all the way. I think it might be good enough for maybe just for standard, maybe not the older formats. Maybe in some ways it will be better in older formats than in something like standard. It's kind of tough to say.
I have a question. I don't understand it very well. Does he phase out every single time or just the
No,
first time?
no, just the first time.
Because phase out, like it still stays on the battlefield. It
Yeah.
just you pretend it's like not there. So it's like it says if it entered the battlefield under your control, he phases out, but it's like still under your control when it's phased out. So,
Yeah,
no.
that's good. We good question because it's not
So
obvious.
it's only
to
for the
everyone.
first time. So it
Yeah.
can't get attacked the first time.
Exactly. But then the reasoning is that once you untap, you get to protect it with removal blockers and whatnot. So
it automatically guarantees you a 1/1 token that's unblockable and a card draw.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
So you can read it as a 3 mana token, like 3 mana 1/1.
a blighted
that draw-
agent was a big upside.
Yeah, it's like basically a saga.
Oh no,
3
never
mana,
mind. Sorry,
1/1.
I was thinking of the infect creature. I'm dumb.
Yeah. You can read it as a saga, right? You can read the first chapter, make it 1/1, second chapter, draw a card.
Yeah, kind of. Unless
And
unless they kill your creature.
Yeah.
But then it's still loot even if you don't attack. People were even talking about it for Reanimator. Potentially, it's you could maybe play it in Reanimator.
I think it's powerful, but I don't think it's like game breaking from a modern perspective.
Yeah, as they say, it's aggressively costed, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's broken, but I think it might be, as you said, Mengu costed aggressively enough that it'll actually see play.
Yeah, and it's like the emblem to me doesn't like Ren and 6, for example, the emblem almost ends the game,
The emblem
whereas this
doesn't matter
emblem does.
though. I mean, if
Yeah,
you
but
ever get to
Ryan,
like if you ever get to 7 loyalty, you probably won the game, right? It means you drew 4 extra cards and got to attack like you're probably not losing that game.
yeah, Ryan 6 is aggressively costed. This one is
Yeah,
less
yeah.
less so than Ryan
Yeah.
6.
All
Can't really
right.
compare.
All right.
All right.
Next at number 10, I had Invoke Calamity.
Ooh, is this a green one?
No, it's a red one. But that's already like kind of loose. So Invoke Calamity is red, 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 and 1. So 5 mana, instant speed. You may cast up to 2 instant and/or sorcery spell with total mana value 6 or less from your graveyard and/or your hand without paying their mana cost. If those spells would be put into your graveyard, exile them, and you also exile Invoke Calamity. So, for instance, you can recast 2 burn spells from your graveyard. You can cast a Cryptic Command and a counter spell from your graveyard, 2 Archmage Charm. You can cast stuff from your hand too. So maybe if you have a second one in hand, you can cast an Opt or Lightning Bolt plus the one from your hand and then recast some cards. And not exactly sure where that might play. I was thinking maybe just straight up blue-red. I think there's enough dual land that you can actually play Archmage Charm, Cryptic Command, and Invoke Calamity in the same deck. But just
So is this 4 spells or just 2?
up to 2 spells, instant or sorcery. So
Up
to- Yeah,
so your
Oh,
count,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so the storm count would be free, I guess.
yeah. I thought about when reading this card. I don't know why my brain just made me think about the Flesh Hulk body double combo. I don't know why, but obviously you need to obviously like everything needs to be different.
Yeah.
But maybe there's a world where 2 spells chain into something else. I don't know. Gifts ungiven. I don't know. I can't. Obviously, the modern hive mind will maybe say something about this card, but for now looks like a value card. We will know how much is 5 mana in modern.
Yeah.
And this card, I don't know. Memory Deluge is, I think, a card that also does. I mean, again, if you flashback to Archmage Charm, it's huge. So
Yeah, or even just like a cryptic command. Even if you don't lose the full 6 casting costs, if you do a bolt plus a cryptic command, that sounds decent as well. So
yeah, but then isn't this like a Snapcaster Mage at that point?
mm, all more powerful, less flexible. Pitches to Fury too. Maybe if people are playing Fury in every red deck, so it's not as big as a liability if you have a card you can't cast, and then when you do cast it, it wins you the game.
Yeah.
I think if this card's gonna be good in modern, it has to be like I win the game, like when you cast it. And I don't think like 5 mana, draw 4 with Archmage's Charm or like steal 2. Like I don't think that's like game winning. Like sorry, like insta win the game. But
Yeah, I like that it's an instant. Like
yeah.
only playable because it's an instant.
This to me just kind of seems like a better electro dominance kind of thing. Like I know it casts sorcery spells, but I don't think that's good enough to build like a cascade deck around it. I think you have to just like cast this and you win the game. Like what's it called? You know that one that destroys creatures and get Emrakul out of your deck.
Yeah, creativity. I
Yeah,
think yeah,
Abominable Creatures.
that's a good point that Canister brought up and we hadn't brought up yet. You can just recast Rhinos. Rhinos is 0 mana.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that could be a cool application. Just recast
Yeah.
your the other ones don't work as well. Yeah, it's tough. It's like kind of top end, I see it kind of like a planeswalker, maybe a 5 mana to fairy. Except it's instant speed, just really powerful. Maybe not quite I win the game on the spot, but I get super far ahead or just huge card advantage. So I guess we'll see if it's good enough and the casting cost not prohibitive. All right. Next, I have at number 9, the first of the land cycle. I have the white one, Eiganjo, Seed of the Empire. So they're all legendary land. They all come into play on tap. They all tap for color and mana, and the white one, and they all have a channel ability. The white one is white and 2. Discard Eiganjo. It deals 4 damage to target attacking or blocking creature. And they all have the reduction ability cost, 1 less for each legendary creature you control.
Yeah, I really like this one. I just today wrote about it for Alchemy because I think that control deck will just love to play up planes that can be a rebuke basically. Ganja to me in white, I think it's the color that can afford to just play a planes that isn't necessarily a planes more than most, like Death and Taxes, for example, used to play the old Ganjo very often in Legacy and Modern.
Yeah, exactly. Hammer Time. When I saw these lands, I felt like Hammer Time was the one that get the least hurt. If you look at the tier 1 modern decks that play a lot of basics or that can afford to, definitely the white decks, some of the white decks are up there. And that card is almost definitely better than the other Igancho. We still had it at like kind of worst of the cycle.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that was good.
yeah. Maybe the blue one's a bit worse. I thought the blue one was bad too. Well,
Yeah, I don't love the blue one. A
relatively
Ganjo.
bad.
Yeah. Also, a Ganjo has this ability costs one less for each legendary creature. It's very relevant here since this is going to be paired maybe with Thalia, Garden of Thraben, across Legacy and Modern. So that's already makes it cost 2, and maybe you have more legends. I'm sure there's, some legends
Yeah.
around, like Ragavan, for example, because the white deck used to play the white and taxes. I don't know. I feel like this is a good card. I'm excited for the rest of the top 8 now. If this is the worst.
All right. So at number 8, I had the White March,
Yeah.
the one that
Okay. Yeah.
exiles
March of
creature.
Otherworldly Light.
Yeah, you want to read
Yeah.
it for us, Harry?
Sure, it's X and a white. It's an instant. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may exile any number of white cards from your hand. This spell costs 2 less to cast for every card exiled this way. And it says exile target artifact, creature, or enchantment with mana value X or less.
Yeah. So for modern, it obviously has tough competition. You've got Prismatic Ending that does a similar thing. You've got Solitude that's also kind of instant speed, and you can play it for cheaper or in Solitude's case for free. If you pitch a white card, this one you always have to play at least 1 white. It's kind of nice with Chalice of the Void because you can overpay. It's the huge appeal in modern, and if it ever sees a lot of play, mostly because of that, is it kills Urza Saga for 1 white. You can even kill Urza Saga with a trigger on the sack before they even get to float a mana with it. So that's kind of the big selling point. Is that going to be enough to see that card play a ton? I was kind of a believer. Canister was all more, maybe lukewarm about it.
I am very excited for this card in Historic. In Modern, we have a Prismatic Ending, which is obviously I think it's just better because you're trading 1 for 1 on parity. Like, sorry, a mana parity. Like, they play a 1-drop, you play a 1-drop. That kills it.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, you have to pay 2. So that makes it obviously worse. The appeal to Urza Saga is huge. Like, we play Spreading Seas, we play Wear Tear, Alpine Moon. I guess now there's Boseiju, but there are definitely plenty of ways to deal with the saga. We all know how strong Urza Saga is. Like the first 3 weeks of Urza Saga, everybody just complained how strong it was and needed to be banned. Now, obviously you have everyone just has so many answers for it that it's kind of kept in check, and this just piles up to the answer for Urza Saga.
I think that why I don't like this card is because the one thing I love about Prismatic Ending is that in Control, you don't really ever do anything on turn 1, whereas Prismatic Ending almost guarantees you to do something, on the draw, of course. But as well as you pitch cards to Solitude, but Solitude has the upside that if you draw it on turn 5 or 6, you get a 3/2 lifelink alongside it. Whereas, like, this card, I can see it being played in Modern, but I think if you're talking from a controls perspective, I probably wouldn't play it in the main. Like, I'm not gonna play almost like a worse Prismatic Ending because I can exile an Urza Saga. I mean, Urza Saga isn't like, it's played very commonly, but not commonly enough for me to justify playing this over Prismatic Ending, in my opinion. I can see it being played like a one of in the main, but the fact that I was going to copies of Isolate in the sideboard recently for like extra white removal, like I can easily see the slotting in the sideboard and being played, but just not good enough just because I can exile Urza Saga.
I think this card will be played in Modern. I think some copies for sure, and it
Yeah.
also might be a card that makes Yorion show up more, because blue-white control is usually not Yorion because you just don't have as much just card depth as the 4-color does. Maybe this just is one more card that you can play in order for your Yorion to be playable in blue-white. Like, I remember there was a player who was making top 8 a lot with blue-white Yorion. This card will definitely go in that deck since you have to go to 80 cards, and also you only have 4 spreading seas and maybe some dress down, so you want to add the answers to Urza Saga if you go to 80 cards. And
That's a
the
good
fact,
perspective.
yeah, and the fact that this is an instant is really good for control decks. I mean, Prismatic Ending sometimes it's a little bit clunky because it's a sorcery, so you can kill, like, I don't know, no math with ability on the stack or stuff like that. Like the thing, like, it pitches to Solitude. I don't know how can I buy it, because for me, when I play the 4-color deck or the blue-white deck, I really try not to pitch anything to Solitude. Of course, like, if you're going to kill me with Armor Time, I have to do it. But I don't know, Gab, how often do you actually use the pitch ability of Solitude in 4-color?
I mean, it's usually when you're desperate, right? You're on the draw, they have turn 1 Ragavan, you have no other answer. That's the most common scenario.
Yeah. I guess, but like, for real, like, I don't know, I feel like so many people just say, oh no, this is fine because you pitch to Solitude, or
yeah,
I don't know. To me, the strength of Solitude is really just the 5 mana.
So yeah, what about just don't you think that a deck like almost any deck in Modern that plays white might just have 4 of that card after sideboard, and you get to bring in against all the Urza Saga deck? Imagine against Hammer Time, you're bringing a card that kills Saga for 1 white and just really solid removal, instant speed for the Hammer, the aid, just gets kind of rid of everything. And as far as blue-white control go, I think you might just play, you'll play 4 Ending and 4 Solitude. It'll just also play a bunch of that, just on top, just maybe even play the full 12 white removal spells. They're just so good, so versatile. We used to have to play with Path to Exile for so long, and I'm sure we had Detention Sphere and we had to play some really bad cards for a long time. And now we have all these great removal spells. And
yeah, I mean, someone plays Wear Tear in the sideboard, and this is just better than that, I think.
Yeah. All right. So number 7, I've got the new Tezzeret Betrayer of Flesh. It's blue 2 for loyalty, and it has a +1 that draws 2 cards. Then you discard 2 cards unless you discarded an artifact card. You have a -2 that turns an artifact into a 4/4 creature forever. So that means your Esper Sentinel is just a 4/4. Gets to attack, gets to tax them on their turn, and a -6 where you get an emblem whenever an artifact you control becomes tapped, draw a card. And on top of that, it has a passive that reduces the activation cost of an artifact by 2 once each turn. So, equipping a Shadow Sphere using a Mazemind Tome in Modern. Not sure what else you have that's really used. You can also use it on their turn. So, for instance, maybe sack a clue is something you can do on their turn. So I think that card's really cool. It's pretty strong. And I think if you can use the passive pretty reliably, I think it's very good. If you can't, it kind of, reminds us a bit of maybe Karn Sign of Urza.
My problem, I don't know why, this card reminds me a lot of Urza, right? The 4 mana Urza,
Yeah.
which is, I don't know, I just had a blue-white artifact deck and I played one. And, like, so to me, it's just hard to find a home in Modern at the moment, in the Modern when we know with Anoli Heat that for 1 red, like, in my blue-white control, I'm not playing any Planeswalkers. I'm so afraid of Anoli Heat. And
Yeah.
so, I'm not sure.
No, that's a great point. It has super tough competition. Urza is amazing in that blue-eyed artifact deck you talked about. I went up to 2 copy even. I was super impressed by that card. And Doppler Foundry, maybe you'll want more though. Maybe you want a couple of each. They are legendary, so kind of snowball even more. Have one of each in play. And
I don't know if it's higher in your top, but like the prototype, the common that adds a colorless mana, maybe that can make you raise the curve a little bit more. But obviously, then you have like clunky draws if you play more than 4 Urza already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not too sure about this one.
Yeah, it's just so hard.
Okay, yeah, it's maybe a little ambitious. Yeah.
Since they printed Anoli Heat, I think they just nerfed Planeswalkers forever in Modern.
Yeah, I guess so. I feel like you have to make them use their unholy heats anyways, but I think it has potential. It has pretty high loyalty count. The fact that turning an Esper Sentinel into a 4/4 sounds pretty appealing because sometimes it just sits there in the late game and doesn't do much, and it does a lot of
it goes up to 5. That's so much.
Yeah, it's pretty tanky. All right. At number 6, I had the blue lands. It's called Otawara.
Yeah.
And it taps for blue. This one has the channel ability is blue and free. Discard it, return target artifact, creature, enchantment, or planeswalker to its owner's hands. I was not blown away. I thought it was maybe even worse than the white one. And I feel like in blue-eyed control, for instance, you already struggle to play enough basics, and it's definitely not free. I think blue-eyed control plays like 3-4 basics maybe. So can you go even lower than that? Sure, it gets rid of Teferi Time Reveler. It's not a spell, so you can end up throwing down to Teferi Time Reveler. That's kind of cool and cute, but is it enough? Is that card enough utility? You've got Castle Vantress, you've got Hole of the Storm Giants. There's just, in general, there's just not that many decks in Modern that can afford to play kind of one-colored mana that suck against Blood Moon.
Maybe you can replace the Castle Vantress.
Yeah, maybe it's better utility than Castle Vantress. Kind of hard comparison because they do 2 totally different things.
Yeah, exactly. Because I think that, I mean, when I saw this card, I'm like, oh, it replaces Castle Vantress. But then I'm like, but blue-white control wants to make land drop. Like, it doesn't want to miss land drop. Of course, it sucks when you flood, but Castle Vantress helps you not to flood. So
yeah, it might be good enough to just replace a spell. The fact that it's kind of like a split card land marginal spell, it makes your land draw a bit more consistent and still mitigates a tiny bit of the flood. Maybe you can bounce your own Solitude, which is kind of cool, but it's so expensive for mana.
Yeah, I mean, there are some decks that play only islands. I'm thinking about Merfolk, for example. Maybe like this is very good in Merfolk.
Sure.
You play like 2 of, or I don't know. There must be certain modern decks that play only islands. Like I don't know, maybe Mill. Maybe Mill plays this card now.
Yeah.
At least one of, and it's not a big deal. Like maybe it is because you play like Fetchland and normal lands because of all the crabs.
Yeah. Yep.
Maybe Otawara buys a turn 2 mill deck is a huge deal.
Yeah.
I mean, these lands I think are great. I mean, you said you rate them all in the top 10, so it's clear that these lands are very good. So we're gonna see a lot of these lands in every format and a lot of decks. I think natural Magic player is I don't know lower on a little bit, down on cards, but I'm sure that we're gonna see Otawara in many decks in Modern.
I think it's kind of just with all the lands. To me, they all seem like somewhat free if the ability does something somewhat relevant in your deck. Like I can definitely see them all being played, and I think they're all at least somewhat decent. When you have these types of lands in Modern, I mean, eventually there'll be a deck that comes up that will like want something that these lands do.
Yeah, if you're playing maybe 5 or more basic lands of one color, you probably can just, put them in your deck without thinking too much about it. But
I
under
think
that,
even less. I think
yeah.
even less than 5.
All right, Mengu, you called it earlier. At number 5, I have Moon Snare Prototype, which is kind of
Ooh,
the new
so
Springleaf
high.
Drum. Well,
Wow.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of a gamble, right? It's either it might, never see. I mean, it's gonna see play, and then people might decide it's not very good. But yeah, 1 blue artifact. You tap it, and you tap an untap artifact or creature you control. You add a colorless, and it has channel 4 in a blue. Discard it. The owner of target non-land permanent puts it on the top or bottom of their library. So it's Springly Drop that's harder to cast, that only makes colorless at not any color, but you can tap an artifact or a creature. So you can tap your Urza's Bubble, your Thought, your Foundry, and it has pretty strong channel ability. That's not like the land we just saw. It's not card disadvantage. It's actually, 1 for 1. So yeah, it's cool design. Thoughts?
I was
I mean, I
just
think this is just busted. I think this is going to be really good.
wow.
Yeah, I think that this card is probably the most playable Modern card because it's like it Springleaf. I think it's one of the top contenders for Springleaf Drum because the most of the games against Affinity that they lose because they top deck Springleaf Drum, and I feel like the fact that I mean, obviously you're losing the colored mana from Drum, but I mean we see that the Affinity decks are playing less like mono colored lands and they're more like, you got the artifact lands, whatever. You don't really care about Springleaf Drum making colored mana, but so I think this is going to be really, really good. Is my prediction.
I'm not sure about that, especially with the new reality heist, the dig through time that costs double blue. I think that the I don't know the fact that this costs blue and that colorless is a huge deal if you're playing with Dark Citadel and maybe even Treasure Vault. But of course, you can change your mana base in order not to have Treasure Vault. It's a strange card. I think it's a good one, but like you need to have permanents that make you value that are just sit in play and do nothing to tap with this. Whereas, and then maybe there's also a problem with like overloading with Springleaf Drum effect. Like, how many do you want to play? 8?
I mean, you might play it if I'm not sure if these decks are going to function if you can play these 8 artifacts and enough cheap artifacts to enable them, and also have enough top end to make it worth it. Urza, maybe the new Tezzeret, etc., etc. Because then you might just have these really awkward opening hands if you don't have your payoff. You just have so much air, but I think it's possible. The fact that it has that really powerful, I think, channel ability in the late game. As Harry said, a lot of the games you lose, you just draw all these drums and whatnot. And
Yeah,
I
but it costs so much mana. 5 mana. I've played Affinity a couple of times, and 5 mana. I remember cutting Giganta from my sideboard because
yeah.
I never came close to, like, I don't know, for the card to be relevant because you always have the cranial plating to move around, or I don't know, you have stuff to do, and
You,
I don't
you,
know.
you might
For
also
now, I am down.
yeah.
I'm more down on you than. Sorry, I'm more down on this card than you, I think.
Yeah, you might also have these artifact decks that wish they could play drum, but they couldn't because they just didn't have enough creature. And that one, you get to play
Mm.
just bubbles, foundry, sword of the meek,
Portable
portable
hole.
hole, exactly, and you get your drum now.
Yeah, portable hole is definitely a card that just just really good with all these just new cards like Reality Heist, Moonslayer Prototype, Metallic Rebuke.
Yeah,
I think my ideal build was I would play 8 drums. I would go for the pure affinity route where you're playing the Frogmite, the 7 mana 4/4s, and then your top end is just your card draw. So you're playing Thoughtcast, the Dig Through Time, and also the 2/2 Flyer, and then you're using the prototype to maybe like you're tapping, because also you have things like the legendary equipment that gives it +1/+1 and lifelink. You can tap things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Sphere,
Um,
net assist.
yeah, as well as the I've forgotten the name of the equipment, Shadow Sphere, stuff like this. So I feel like there's enough artifacts that Moonsnare prototype can tap, and I think that it really does help out with your draw spells. That's why, and I think it's going to be like some mono blue kind of deck, but
Yeah,
maybe I'm
when
wrong. I'm not saying. I think I'm really high on this card to try it actually, because I think it would do some good for the format, I think.
yeah, not this weekend, but the one before, an Affinity went, I think, 10th place on the challenge, and actually got to play their list with 4 Mirror Enforcer, and went like 4-1, losing to Cripping Corrosion, which I don't know, you don't usually play against. But the deck was good, and that's what got me very hyped to try the new Reality Highs card. I don't know if you have it ranked higher, but I think you're more higher on
No,
this card here.
yeah, no, we don't have it. You can talk about it if you want, though, while we're on talking about artifact, because I don't
The
have it in my
Reality
top
Heist
10.
is it's a 5 blue, and it costs 1 less. It's affinity for artifacts, and you look at the top 7 cards, and you reveal 2 artifact cards, and you put them in your hand. So if Thoughtcast is Treasure Cruise, this is Dig Through Time. I think it's very similar. Like obviously Thoughtcast is more cost less mana, it's cheaper, it only costs 1 blue. But this in a deck with like 6 to 8 Mirror Enforcer with the Sojourner's Companion, it really has the possibility to just you tap 2 blue and just put 2 4/4s into play. I can definitely see that happening in that deck. And I'm really excited about this card because again, also you can pick up Net Assist or lands because it also picks up lands. So yeah, that's the card.
Yeah, I thought it was a little expensive. I thought the fact that it's 2 blue means you can never cast it for 1 blue like you do sometimes with Thought Monitor. You really do have these
Yeah.
turns, especially with Urza out, where you go Monitor for 1 mana. It is relevant. So that was a
Yeah.
little downside. I feel like it'd be a little better if obviously if it was a blue and 6 instead.
Yeah.
Maybe in a deck like Doppler Foundry to find your combo pieces, or you're seeing it just as like another thought cast in the all in artifact deck as your top end kind of collected company, I guess. Yeah, I think it's a little too expensive. I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, it's weird because you think that the Mooster prototype is good, and I don't think so, and like the opposite. So
Yeah.
challenging. It's always good to have this like hot takes. I don't know. I feel like I don't do them very often because I'm
So
often
okay,
wrong.
so reality highs. That's your hot take that card's
Yeah,
gonna actually be good. All right.
only in one deck probably though. So
No, but even if it's really good in one deck, that's still a big deal. All right.
in modern, yeah.
Next I have another land, the black one, Takenuma
Ooh,
Abandoned Mire. And this one channels for black and free, mail free cards, return a creature or planeswalker from your graveyard to your hand. So combos kind of synergy with Lurrus, Kroxa, Delirium. It's also pretty cool with Ren and 6 because they kind of save each other. You can get back your Ren and 6 with Takenuma and then play Ren and get back Takenuma. So you're like kind of this loop where you always have a Ren and 6 and just seems pretty solid in general. It's a card for a card. And Canister was it actually didn't super catch my eye at first, but Canister seemed pretty high on it, and I kind of agree with him.
mm, I don't know. No,
No,
that's
I
so
think it's
much.
just gonna be like one up in Ragdos, maybe one up in Ren. Yeah, you don't think it's actually good enough for like John Saga and Ragdos?
So I always think about Jun Saga with like one of the deck with the worst mana base ever
True.
in modern. And this card also doesn't cast Ren and 6.
Yeah, that's
Like,
fair.
like the basic Swamp and the Urza Sagas, and sometimes you have the Bajuka Bog in the side. So outside of that, maybe like, maybe it's not great in that exact example. It costs 4 mana to bring back a card. We already have, Lurrus that like it's just value. We have Kroxa. I feel like we have already I don't know, just so much like of course you have expressive iteration and like call against command, so much redundancy that's really hard for a modern deck to be like, oh yeah, I really need this land to be a 4 mana raised dead, you know?
That's fair. Okay, yeah, I could see that. I could see it not being even good enough for John Saga, even if you're playing Ren and 6.
Then you're like, oh, it's good with Life from the Loam. Yeah, but like that's not a format. Like that's just not the modern that we play with. Yeah, I don't know. For me personally, Engajo is still better than the two lands there that you mentioned so far.
Okay, yeah. All right. Should we move on to the next one, or do you want to add something, Harry?
I mean, it's kind of the same idea. I think that 4 mana is definitely a lot,
Yeah.
and it's like that's a whole turn. So I mean, it makes sense. With I think the best argument is that the mill 3 is like really good. I think that what I like about this is it's a way to get back Luris, but you already have Kolaghan's Command, so
Yeah.
I'm not too hot on this.
Yeah, maybe.
And then again, we're definitely gonna see this land in the decks
Yeah.
with like plenty of swamps because it's a
Yeah.
free
Yeah.
roll. Like that's the thing. In decks where it's a free roll, it's great. But in decks where like John Saga, that's already struggling to fit like one swamp because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah,
I think that like sorry, yeah, you go.
No, I was just gonna say, I think I might agree that it's not good enough to play an ambitious mana base, and you're just gonna see it in Ragdos, just kind of 2-color decks.
Yeah, I think the thing is with all these lands, it's like we can analyze what the effect does. It just kind of matters of can a deck afford to play it? It's like does it actually do something to the game? You know, the deck's plan. It's like there will always be a deck that will fit a mana base and game plan for all these 5 lands. Like I think they will all see play in modern. It's just like when is a deck going to be able to play it? To be honest,
Yeah, but
that's kind of my take for all of them.
yeah, but then there's the question of in a deck like John Sagavan, that's a pretty good example. Is it good enough to almost be played as a spell, you know? Like you're not even
Mm.
counting in your mana base, it's like kind of a split card. And
So do you play this over Kolaghan's Command?
yeah, exactly.
Maybe,
Are you willing to
maybe.
cut one of your spells to have that land that
Yeah.
doesn't cast Ren onto it?
Because you already have Boseiju now to deal with Chalice of the Void, and Kolaghan's Command I feel like was mostly there for Chalice of the Void and maybe Hammer Time. So maybe I could see that actually.
Yeah. All right. Feels like we're beating a dead horse at this point. Next one, another land. The fourth one of the cycle, and it's the red one. So Kenzan, Crucible of Defiance. And the channel ability is a red and free. Create 2 colorless spirit creature tokens. They gain haste until end of turn. So this one's pretty cool because it's just a win conditionless Ren. If you're playing, you know, let's say in a teamer deck, counter Ren, you play a Ren, and then sure, making tokens end of turn that have haste a little counterproductive. You don't get the full value, but yeah, you can just sit back. Whenever they don't do anything, boom, you make 2 1/1s, or if you need blockers, and so that's a cool thing. It's also the one that's least affected by a Blood Moon because it taps for red anyway, so that's not changing anything there. And yeah, I think that one's quite strong in a burn deck. It's kind of, you know, natural fit for a red deck to be aggressive, haste creatures. Seems quite well rounded, quite strong to me.
You mentioned it comboing with Indomitable Creativity.
We talked about it. We did mention it. Not I yeah, as you're like kind of fifth or sixth dwarven runes. That's another good use. Yeah.
I mean, maybe in modern you have like Fetchland Dwarven Mine mana base, super easy. But in historic, I think this is gonna be huge because there you don't play Dwarven Mine. So I think this card. I think this card is. I mean, not as good as Boseiju, but certainly I think that the second best of the bunch. Just a free mountain that in red decks become 2/4/4 is huge. As you said, not getting hosted by Blood Moon just means that you just play like in burn, you can easily like cut a mountain and play this, maybe.
Yeah, and it's a natural red and 6 colors, which is nice.
Yep, definitely one of the strongest.
All right, should I hit you as my number 2?
Number two, yeah, I don't know what it is because it can't be.
Let's see.
two
Can
Bozejus.
either of you guess?
It's
All
the
right, all right.
Greenland, isn't it?
No,
No,
the Greenland is first.
the
Must be
Greenland is
first.
first. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Sorry if I killed the hive, but if it
Wow.
wasn't the first, it was a mistake.
All right, number 2. It's a creature. It's a white creature.
Oh, did you mention the white, the colorless black red saga that like kills all the one drop?
We didn't have it in our top 10 just because it's in Lurus colors and it costs more than 2 and it's
No,
kind of
but
a
this is like
sideboard card and stuff.
maybe like in the Grixis control, brutal
Yeah.
Grixis control, like killing modern is so many one drops,
I
so
have
many
it.
one
We
drops.
can talk about it because I have it in my historic top 5. But no, it didn't quite make the cut in top 10 for modern. Anyways,
Wow.
top,
Okay.
top 2, Lion Sash,
Wow.
1/1, a white and 1, artifact creature, equipment cat. And it has kind of a scavenging usability. It's 1 white, exile target card from a graveyard. If it was a permanent card, you put a +1/+1 counter on Lion Sash. It equips, and the equipment is +1/+1 for each counter on it. And it has Reconfigure, which is a new ability. It's basically like equipment for a creature. So it doesn't gain you life, but it's any permanent for the +1/+1 counter, not just creature. It's an equipment, so you can get it with Stoneforge Mystic, which make it probably better in Modern than in any other format. And yeah, I mean, Modern's graveyard-based format. It's in the Lurus colors. It costs 2. It's Teardle Stoneforge Mystic, graveyard huge fart. That card seems really, really strong. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. This card seems great. Just to understand and maybe make people understand better. So whenever you equip, this card doesn't give automatically +1/+1. It
No.
only gives +1/+1 equal to the counter on it.
Yeah.
So this would be, for example, a 5/5, but if you equip it, it's gonna give only +4/+4.
Yeah,
Mhm.
correct.
Okay. And also another question, reconfigure. So you pay 2 and you equip it to a creature. But if you wanna equip it to another creature, do you have to pay 4?
What do you mean?
No, it's
Do,
not. You mean 2 plus
No,
2?
no, no.
No.
It says attach it to target creature. Oh wait, attach to target creature you control or unattach from a creature.
Yeah, it means you can either pay 2 to attach it from one creature to the other, or pay 2 to
okay.
make it become a
Yeah.
creature again, I guess.
Okay, perfect. So this will always be, it's like equip
Yeah.
or disequip,
And
easy.
and
Okay.
reconfigure works with Cigarar's aid, meaning you can pay 2 and attach directly. And then with Pure Steel Paladin, I believe it equips for free once it's equipped. I
Mhm.
forget.
But that's a different mechanic though. That says equip. This is reconfigure.
Yeah, there's.
Yeah, but I think Pure Steel Paladin gives equipments the 0 cost.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Sure. Okay.
So
Okay, cool.
once it's an equipment, once it's reconfigured on a creature, it becomes an equipment, and then it benefits from the Pure Steel Paladin reduction cost.
I think it's always an equipment, right? It's equipment cut.
No, I think it's only an equipment when it's attached to a creature.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, no, super good. This is also like you can play with lures. So if you want to play Stoneforge Mystic, you can also because like you can also do that. Like only Armor Time does it because they have armor, but normal Stoneforge Mystic deck tend to play, higher convert mana cost equipments. This one can fit there. So that's
Okay,
cool.
apparently rules got updated today, and it just works great with Pure Steel Paladin, even when it's a creature.
Okay, so you draw a card when you cast it, and you keep it for free.
Yeah. Wow,
Cool.
that makes it even better.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's actually pretty decent.
yeah. This is gonna be huge. I mean, that's gonna definitely see playing the decks that we already know.
Yeah. And the fact that you can get this with Stoneforge Mystic as
Yeah.
well just makes it great
Wh-
cyborg
Which
card.
which is the easiest way to evaluate a card if you
Well,
already know
yeah.
what to
Maybe
do.
in main deck.
Oh yeah, I think it's definitely going to be at least maybe even a couple up in the main that can kill your first one. I could see
Yeah.
2 in the main and maybe more in the sideboards.
I mean, every deck has just graveyard like Lurus,
Yeah.
Jargazer Channeler. Everyone loves to keep their graveyard warm and yeah, all
Yeah.
the Ren and 6 decks. Yeah, super good. Super good this card.
All right. And number one, Mengu called it. It's kind of obvious. Well, it
Yeah.
was actually not super obvious to me at first. Viseju, who endures, said, I want channels for green and one, and you destroy target artifact, enchantment, or non-basic land that no opponent controls. That player may search their library for a land card with a basic land type, put it into the battlefield, then shuffle. So
Yeah.
untapped, basic land type means Hallowed Fountain, like dual lands. They have the basic land type, island, plains, etc. So a bit harder to run people out of their basics because they actually get to get dual lands too. And yeah, people were just super hyped. I was a little annoyed. I feel like people were kind of overhyped about it, but I kind of turned around, and I think one take that kind of triggered me a bit is that people were saying that that card would be better helping Tron and helping Amulet Titan get rid of stuff like Blood Moon. And I thought that it was going to be the other way around. It was going to be worse for them and better for the, Ren and 6 decks, and they were going to suffer more from it. But yeah, I was not as high as other people, but then I started talking about it, and I was right now. There's Belcher deck, for instance. There's a Oops All Spells, the Belcher decks. They get wrecked by that, and I can just see a world where you play one or two in your main deck in your Ren deck, and then you go up to four after sideboard for a bunch of matchups, and it's kind of the best sideboard card you can have in these matchups. And there's enough decks that you hit between the Titan decks, the Spells deck, the Tron decks that it's actually worth it to have multiple copies in your 75.
I think it's better to explain a little bit better that against Belcher and Oopso spells, they just don't have like normal lands. So this is just Stone Rain, and you're paying 2 mana for a Stone Rain.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
that's
maybe even one mana if you have Ragavan in play.
yeah, yeah, and it's Assassin's Trophy, which isn't really a good card, but you're not playing a spell, you're playing a land. So if Assassin's Trophy isn't good, you just play as a forest.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
and it's in the Ren colors.
yeah, I think this card is gonna be like for years and years we're gonna have this card around, and it's gonna be huge.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
yeah.
It might be format warping. It might literally, get rid of some of the successful archetypes we have right now that just can't beat a deck that has 4 Ren and 6 and 4 Boseiju after sideboards.
Yeah, I mean, we already talked about the March, the White March before, but this is another card that definitely like it's good against Hammer Time. Like it's not as good as March because they can definitely recover, but if you are already like stabilizing, this is a Shatter and it's a land. Like that's the huge deal that it's a split card. Naturalize, I mean, Assassin's Trophy, Forest. Like,
Yeah.
so good.
Maybe
And
whoever designed that cycle is a plant at Wizards that wanted to get Ren and 6 banned really badly, and now they're like, well, I guess we do have to ban Ren and 6.
yeah, honestly, I just love this cycle. Like just giving
Yeah.
rewards for people to just play less basic lands. I think it's good. Like really, really good. Like this card again. Like if you think about Commander, right? Everyone would love this card. Like you just have any deck of these colors, just put this over a basic land, and and think about older formats. This card is so good in older formats. It's unreal. Like this kills like Chalice of the Void or Trinosphere, or in Vintage it kills like Bazaar of Baghdad, Sphinx of the Steel Wind. Like this card is insane, insane. Definitely the strongest card
Yeah,
in the
and
Kamigawa.
ironically, it's the one that channels for the least mana out of the
Yeah.
entire cycle,
Yeah,
which is one of the reasons why it's so good. If it was channel 4,
yeah,
it
for
wouldn't be
sure,
as exciting.
for sure. Yeah, Channel 2 is again like a split card, Assassin's Trophy Forest. I think that's
Yeah.
what it is. Not even because he just plays in your turn with Teferi. You don't have to pay the tax if the opponent has like a Thalia or an S%.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that card's gonna be a
And the,
gonna
and
be a
the
big
combos
deal.
with there's Fnoop, Pete Ward. He came ninth place in the challenge this weekend. He was playing this red green with Brandon 6 and Abish Reclaimer and Karn, the 4 mana Karn, and no John, like no lures. The companion was Giganta. And basically, the deck was just waiting for this card to be released, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he even told me that when this card would be released, he will be playing Traverse the Ulvenwald to fetch for it if really needed.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And then you have again four Vrens and yeah, so that's definitely the first deck you can try. Like it's there, like 9th place Sunday challenge. He said one fetch land for this, 2 more in the side, and you go.
Yeah, I think they maybe messed up printing that card. If we'll see how it impacts the different formats, but
Let's not say that yet. But
yeah,
I think it's good though. You print good cards. Like I think it's good. Like we've said, the top 10 of a format of a set is 5 lands. It's not. I don't know how exciting that is, but I'm happy that I made this cycle to. It's just I enjoy when old set get new
but if
cards.
one card like nukes a quarter of the metagame, that can't be good, right? If the metagame gets way less diverse and you
But
just
it doesn't. Like Grixis Shadow, Murktide, and 4-color Omnath that will still be untouched.
I don't know. I feel like Modern's really cool right now because there's just such a diversity, and if you just remove the Tron decks, maybe even Amulet Titan, the Belcher and the All Spells decks from the meta, it's all I think it's not a good thing, but we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens. We'll see if it's as good as we think it is, as people think it is. If other decks can adapt, who knows? Maybe Belcher starts sideboarding in basic lands, or lands.
Mountain.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can probably still kill people on average with 1 or 2 mountains in your deck.
I mean,
and then,
in Legacy, you play Land Grant.
and then it goes from like it's the difference between them kind of re-rolling you and getting your lands and wrecking you to if you actually get a land that you're the one who just time logged them.
Yeah.
And you turn the tables on them.
I'm sure that actually that's going to happen, right? You just put a stomping ground and you do what? Top 2 mana, discard a card, and nothing happened. Actually, you fix their mana base.
Yeah.
See, it's already like don't be. I don't know. I felt that you were being Twitch chat there with this is bad for the game. Everything will die.
No, I mean just this card specifically can it feels like it could have too big of an impact, but.
Good. I don't know. I'm always a big fan of powerful sets. I don't know. That's just me because like when you have like small, less powerful set like I don't know Innistrad or I don't know. I mean we had Modern Horizons 2 that had like at least an year span of cool new decks coming out every weekend because of how good it was.
Yeah.
So they were fine, but I think Kamigawa has the potential.
All right. I also have a top 5 for historic. And it's actually a few different cards, not like necessarily all the same cards. But yeah, I agree with you. It's cool that a set the design looks super sweet. People are super hyped about it. The art, the flavor, everything about it, and they figured out a way to make cards that are good for modern somehow without probably being too broken for standard. So that's kind of cool too. Anyways, historic. All right, I have a top 5. It's maybe a little looser than the modern one. At 5, I have a good boy, the Spirited Companion. A white and 1/1 enchantment creature dog. When it enters the battlefield, you draw a card. So a white elvish visionary that's also an enchantment. You've got Soul Herder, you've got white-green Enchantress decks, you've got Yorion in historic. You've got Enigmatic Incarnation, so maybe that card can make these decks a bit better and take them to the next level. We'll see. I'm hoping it does. We don't have Wall of Omens in Historic, but we have Spirited Companion now.
How did you take the nerf of Inspiring Captain?
How did I take it? I was happy. I thought it was... I mean, I played a tiny bit once people figure out that the captain was super, super good, and it was awful. It was these banned mirror matches. We were just both playing captain's deck. Yeah,
but it didn't really do well. Like I was following the MTG Melee events and
maybe
the Blink deck.
Yeah. I had kind of a somewhat miserable session where I just played a bunch of banned mirrors, and it was not super. I didn't think it was super fun.
No.
So
It's okay. This is Elvish Visionary. I don't know. No.
yeah, you're not super excited. All right, at 4, I had the card you thought I maybe should have had in Modern as well. It's
Well,
Hiritsugu Consumes All, Red, Black, and One
okay.
Saga.
Yeah.
First chapter is destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 1 or less. So ovens, cats, all their tokens, their foods, etc. Goose. Chapter 2, exile all graveyards. Kind of anti-Lurus, even though it's not that hard to save your cat. But maybe if you lost all your 1 mana permanents, it's tougher. And then the third one, it flips into a pretty decent creature, free trample. When it deals damage, it gets a +1/+1 counter on it, and then it has a kind of stupid passive. If it's dealt 10 damage or more to a player this turn, they'll lose the game, so it needs to be huge already. So yeah, Mengu.
I love it. I love this card. I think it's super powerful in formats where the curve is as cheap as, again, like Modern, where everyone just plays one drop. In Historic, you have Dragon's Red Channeler. You have, of course, the cat food deck.
Yeah. The two best decks past weekend were Phoenix, which has 1-drops NOACL Graveyard Synergy, the Phoenix, the Ox,
Yeah.
and you had food, just black green food, usually Lurus.
Yeah. So my problem with playing in because you played at the PT Arachnos deck that wasn't playing Lurus. I remember that.
Yeah.
And the clause exile old graveyards is really bad for you because you play Arcanist, you play Croxa, you play like.
That's actually a good point. I actually never even thought about that when I saw that card. I was just so focused on the fact that black green food was a terrible matchup for that Ragdos deck that was kind of what you were waiting for. I didn't even think that
Old
it's
graveyards.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you can set up and, like, instead of doing Arcanist on turn 2, you do another thing, but you usually just go turn 1 Distor Spell, turn 2 Interaction, and then on turn 4 you're gonna exile it all.
Yeah.
I guess you can just rebuild afterwards.
To be fair, the deck doesn't play Dragon Ray Chandler, and Arcanist is okay in it, but it's not even that great. I was kind of pretty high on Chandler. Chandler also suffers because it's obviously harder to make it a 4/4 if you lose your graveyard, and Crocs one of your good cards. Yeah, that's an excellent point. I totally missed that, and we'll see. You can maybe play that card in Niv. You were talking about maybe Grixis in Modern. You could see some red, black, X mid-range decks too now, maybe thrive in Historic as well.
Yeah, Niv did really well this weekend on the MTG Melee events. There was like a couple of large modern events, large historic events on MTG Melee, because they're running. I know that this podcast is supposed to focus on modern, but they're actually running a lot of actual PTQs on MTG Melee, like different people, different circuits. And this weekend was won by BG Food. In the finals, there was Niv Mizzet.
Yeah.
And this card definitely goes in Niv Mizzet, 100%. Like, maybe just in the main, couple in the main, couple in the side, for sure.
If you want a modern player's perspective, I mean, I've played Relic of Progenitus in decks where I rely on the graveyard. I mean, if the destroy each non-land permanent is like that good, and then you get a 3/3 out of it, I don't see why kind of shooting yourself in the foot isn't that bad if you get some value out of it.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
tough to say.
but Rakdos really needs it, right? Like,
yeah, because their best
like,
card.
go.
Sorry, their best card is still Trail of Crumbs, so that doesn't die, and they might be able to rebuild. I think one thing that's hard to rate with these cards is how impactful is that third chapter, that creature, going to be? Because we always talk about kind of the cool effects, but we don't talk as much about the creature. Okay, sure, it's just a free trample was a small bonus, but maybe that's just too much. Maybe that's just too much value, and I feel like these cards are hard to rate until we've played a bunch with them and see how they play out.
Yeah, makes sense.
All right, at number 3, maybe not high enough, but I had the land cycle. I just for historic, I just grouped it in one because I felt like you don't have Ren in 6. It's not as impactful as it might be in modern, and the way I saw it is like, okay, every deck that can play it is just going to play one. You don't have to worry about Blood Moon or Magus of the Moon, and it's not going to be maybe as interesting of a problem as far as deck building goes as it is in Modern.
Sure, okay, but I think that every format that doesn't have fetch lands, so like Pioneer, Standard, and Alchemy, Historic, will love these lands.
Yeah.
Like we'll go like really, really high on this land, and I can see Engadget just replacing a spell in like a control deck because it's
Yeah.
like a removal spell,
Yeah.
and I can see Soken-san be huge in the mono red decks that like it's popular. Like one of the best decks in Alchemy is mono red, and again in Historic you have the Indomitable Creativity deck that actually struggles in making tokens because you don't have the fetch lands.
Yeah.
I'm not that high on the blue and the black. I wasn't before. I'm still not that high, but I can definitely see. Again, it's just free. It's just free. Like mono black aggro, it's a deck. You can just play 2 Takenuma and it's gonna be fine.
Yeah, I probably should have had the cycle at just number 1 just because you're going to see so much of it, even though they're not game breaking.
Yeah, easy you.
All right. At 2, that one, I mean, I felt like for Historic was a bit tougher. I just had Lion Sash again. Just because I think Artifact is, there's a couple decent Artifact decks already, and this one's just pretty versatile. The graveyard, the 2 best decks right now are graveyard based, and we'll see if that card, the question is that card as obviously not as powerful without Stoneforge, but is it still good enough at face value? Like you would just put a bunch of Scavengers in your deck. It starts with weaker base stats, but it's any permanent. You also don't have fetch lands in Historic, which means maybe not as easy to get permanents in the yard. So that one was kind of, I wasn't too sure.
I'm not that high on this card in Historic. I think in Modern, like, imagine if Stoneforge Mystic was still banned. Would you be so high on this card in Modern?
No, not at all.
Yeah. So I think Historic is similar.
Yeah.
And White has Rest in Peace already, which is a very major graveyard 8. Of course, this is like Rest in Peace hits both graveyards, so you really just cannot afford to play any graveyard strategies, whereas this card can only hit your opponent. So in a deck that uses graveyard, it would be good in the same way that, I don't know, Nihil Spellbomb is good.
Yeah.
Or Soga Lantern. Yeah.
All right.
Makes sense.
And at number 1, I have kind of a cycle. I had the artifact cards basically. I have Mindlink Mech, Tezzeret, and Moonsnare Prototype. So we've already talked about Moonsnare Prototype and Tezzeret. And Mindlink Mech is a card I thought was really cool. It does maybe a little more than meets the eye at first. It's a blue.
I've never read it.
Okay, well, a blue and 2 artifact vehicle for free flying crew 1. And whenever it becomes crewed for the first time each turn until end of turn, it becomes a copy of target non-legendary creature that crewed it this turn, except it's a for free. It's a vehicle artifact in addition to its other type, and it has flying. So I'm just going to give you an example so you kind of get it. It's probably easier. It's you crew it with Esper Sentinel, boom, your opponent has to play 4 more for their spell. So you could imagine a spot where you just crew it in their upkeep with your Sentinel, and all of a sudden they have to pay 1 for your Sentinel and 4 for that. If you crew it with Ingenious Smith and then play an artifact, it gets a +1/+1 token. And if you crew it with a Karnstruct from Karnstein of Urza or Urza, it gets +X for each artifact you have. So potentially you can hit for 8 damage, 10 damage, even more. So those are the 3 that kind of were obvious to me. Maybe there's a few others I'm forgetting. It does say non-legendary, so you can't just crew it with Ragavan and get the Ragavan trigger. But yeah, I think that card is really cool, and I'm hoping it's going to be good enough, specifically in Historic. The blue-white Historic deck was already pretty strong, maybe not tier 1, but with all the upgrades it's getting, it might be good.
The crew is just 1 for a 4/3 flyer.
Yeah.
Wow, this card is really good. I don't know why it's just completely
I got Mengu hyped. Nice.
Yeah. Although I don't have the Net Assist and the Thought Monitor on Magic Arena. I don't want to craft them.
Oh.
Joking.
Oh.
I always have this thing where it's just so painful to craft Modern Horizons cards on Arena.
just to write them off as a business expense. You're good.
No, it's fine. I drafted
Yeah.
enough back in the days. I still live off the grind. No, but yeah, this card is really, really good. I didn't know it at all.
Yeah.
It must be true that the construct on historic can only be made of Karnstein of Urza. That's it. Like you don't have
Um.
Urza, you don't have Urza Saga, right?
No, I don't think there's other ways to make
Yeah.
construct.
But no, this card is excellent. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. I have to make some points about cards you didn't mention.
All right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, March of the Otherworldly Light. I think this like I'm very excited to try this card in 4 of in my Jeskai control. Like, I was already high on Jeskai control before with like Anger of the Gods, and you have Lightning Helix. Just the usual Teferi, Narset, Shark Typhoon, and this is just Exiles, Witch's Oven, Exiles, Trail of Crumbs. It's not great, but it does the thing that you want to do. Exiles like Ravenous Squirrel, everything, and it's an instant, so you can pay with Teferi, like you untap 2 lands, and you have now or Mospa for a 1-drop. Exiles Artlet Phoenix is just obviously like it's expensive to do so, but it's just so versatile that I think it's what makes it good. I think.
Yeah. The format's not as fast. You don't get punished as much for overpaying, and there's just not that great of removal in historic. You've got Fateful Absence, Portable Hole,
Exactly.
Seal
Yeah.
Away, Baffling End, but
Yeah,
nothing.
you mentioned the Faithful Absence, but I just don't want to give my opponent a clue.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Portable Hole sometimes is a number with Divine Purge if you want to play Divine Purge in blue-white, for example.
Yeah. Gets rid of creature lands too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then another card I am high on is Farewell.
Yeah.
It's 6 mana, sorcery, and it says choose one or more. And it's exile all artifact, all creatures, all enchantments, all graveyards. So if you play this card against classic black green food, the most popular deck in the format, you just clean.
Yeah, that's a great point. I saw that card and I was like, oh, it's another one of these 6-minute sweepers. It doesn't get rid of planeswalkers, but
Yeah.
was the specific perspective of cleaning out black green food, for example. Even Phoenix, getting rid of their graveyard and stuff, exiling the Phoenixes.
Yeah, it costs 6, which is a lot. I think against black green food you can afford that because the game goes super long against them if you play control. But I used to play Cleansing Nova, but I think I would play this instead.
Yeah, and
For
you don't
that.
really play enchantments in blue white or artifacts. You don't have to play Portable Hole. You have what Shark Typhoon, Search First Countdown that people don't really play anymore. You just have planeswalkers for the most part, so it could be it could be good. Yeah, you think like more of a main deck card, sideboard card, maybe one of in the main, one in the sideboard, something like that.
It depends how much we expect Black Green Food to be at the PT. I think it's gonna be very, very popular.
Yeah,
And like again, this is also good against the Enchantress deck, which is a deck. It did very well in one of these PTQ. I think it came first place in one of them too.
yeah.
And I heard I read on Twitter that you played a bunch of Enchantress.
Yeah, Enchantress. Yeah, it was fun. I had what happened is that 2 people in my chat who made day 2 of the qualifier, was it? And unfortunately, day 2, one went 6 free, got really close, and another one
No.
went 3 and 3. So still like pretty solid showing for day 2, and played a bit of Enchantress, and it was decent. But right now, the food list have Rampage the Clan, Arya, who won the PTQ, even had one in the main, one in the sideboard, and what happened in my games was they would just go end of turn Rampage, untap Meat Hook Massacre, and my whole board was good, so gone. But maybe if you get far enough ahead, you can keep enough cards in hand and rebuild. Maybe I didn't play super well these games, but that felt tough.
Did she play Rampage the Clan to blow up her own food token?
I mean, I guess just versatile, just blows up your own stuff, blows up their stuff in the mirror match. You just get them. It's it's kind of versatile in that deck.
Yeah, the food deck just looks like you can't attack it. Like
Yeah, it's up in the Meat Hook Massacre, Thoughtseize.
yeah. Really, really
Yeah,
good.
that looks
Really good
good.
deck.
Yeah.
I'm finally, after years, I have a team for this PT.
Oh, I saw ya.
Yeah, I made this announcement, and actually a lot of people joined. I was pretty afraid that not that many people would have joined, but we have a group of 16 people around, and yeah, they're writing a lot, they're testing a lot between them. I mainly made it so for those of you who didn't read the tweet, I openly invited people to a Discord group of people qualified to the PT, but only people that were very interested in testing, I said. So we have this group and people like, and mostly I made it because so many people just qualify for their PT and just test on the ladder, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean, what else you're supposed to do? Nobody else is qualified that you know, so you just test on the ladder. And the testing between people is much better than just
Yeah.
testing on the ladder. So, and it's working. I think that lots of people that are now, trying hard, and yeah, tomorrow we have a meeting where
Yeah,
we're
it's
talking about
working.
all of this.
People are
Yeah.
testing for you, so you don't have to test. Genius.
Oh, no, I'm not doing that. I already locked my historic deck. Just get control.
Yeah, I saw Poompa. Poompa beat the crap out of me on the ladder a couple of times.
Yeah, I'm like fan number one of Upumpa. I always watch his stream, and I'm always in his chat watching him play. He always plays control. He always trapped me with his deck. Like at the Arena Open, I played Esper. I love him. I love him. He always plays these control decks, and
Yeah.
he's very high on the ladder. He's always
Yeah,
like top 10.
he was rank 11 when he beat me. Yeah, maybe I'm a little too cynical, but it's the first thing. I mean, kind of half jokingly, but it's the first thing I thought of when I saw that. We was like, nice. He's just gonna have people do the.
Oh,
I've been thinking about
I
maybe
didn't. Okay, it's
doing
fine.
that,
It's fine. You
like
think it.
testing a bit more openly and just having kind of a group and makes my stream a little more fun. I could see
Yeah.
myself doing that at some point. I think it's a good idea. I like it.
Yeah, it's just that since I basically decided that I took content creation over,
Yeah,
pro player, I like withdraw myself from teams because it wasn't fair that,
yeah,
I was streaming every day and I was streaming my games, and maybe I end up like streaming a deck that's very similar to a person deck,
yeah,
and I don't want to be like people thinking that I stream their deck.
yeah,
So I never like asked Javier or anyone or Chana Fireball to join any team or
yeah.
you, because I always, but I think that, yeah, what happened is that both me and Eli Loveman, we wanted to make this team with Upumpa, who won the qualifier, so he's qualified, and also another good friend of Eva or Eli, so it was us four only. And I'm like, if it's just us four, we can just, I don't know. I felt that was a good opportunity because normally I wouldn't have done it if I was by myself again.
Yeah. No, I haven't looked at our Discord chat basically because I don't want to see, what my teammates are up to and then be influenced on my stream. So I'm just gonna ignore it till the last week before testing and then kind of test wisdom, in-house testing for the last week before deck lists are due.
I wanna take your opinion on one thing about just get control. Like, I really insist that we should play Kahera because it's a free roll, and Upumpa does not think so. Like, at what point it's a free roll? Like in modern, for example, it's not a free roll. It's really good with Solitude. In historic, it doesn't have any effects except maybe now March, but it's
Yeah.
not that good either.
I think we played it in the last time we played just kind of big tournament. I think we had Kahira. I think it's a little worse in historic than it is in modern.
For sure.
Yeah, I could see it not being. I'm a big fan of Giganta, but I could see Kahira not being its super worth in that deck. A
Yeah.
lot of time I've wanted to have cards like Baneslayer Angel in my sideboard too, so it gets a little
Mhm.
worse when there's a bunch of matchups where you bring in creatures. But I'm assuming if you have literally no creature and you're never bringing creature in any matchup, one Kahira sounds kind of nice.
Yeah. You can get Nezahal because Nezahal is a dinosaur.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
All right. I think it's time.
Yeah, we lost Harry. Should we do time for life on the line or Price is Right?
Yeah, I think it's time for me to go to bed.
At this
Yeah.
point, I'm gonna throw life on the line, so I don't have to talk about historic anymore. I say talk, listen. But yeah, sure. So for those new listening and don't know what life on the line is, at the end of every episode, there's a theoretical tournament tomorrow. If you win the event, you live. If you lose, you die. Got to bring a deck from every form we talked about today. You guys can give a historic deck if you really care. Yeah, maybe just modern. But in modern, I think honestly, right now, I would go for the Crack the Earth deck. I think I really believe in the white-red structure of Sentinel, Ragavan, and Saga. I really liked it.
Well, we should do life on the line with Kamigawa because Kamigawa is coming out tomorrow.
Ooh.
Does that
Okay,
change
then
anything?
I'm just going all in on Mono Blue Affinity.
Ooh.
Nice,
All in.
nice.
Let's go, baby.
With the new dig through time or no dig through time?
With the new dig through time, I'm gonna be rocking like the Frogmite build, like the 7-mana 4/4s, the new Spring Leaf Drum. I'll show you my life on the line. That's how it's done, baby.
we need to make the list together because I want to stream that deck on Friday.
Oh, sick! Yeah.
Okay.
What about you, Gab?
I'm gonna stick to 4-color Omnath. You get the new lands now, so you get an upgrade, and I think that deck's still really good.
That takes a lot of force of will to stick to a deck after 0-2 on a challenge. I'm so much result oriented. If I 0-2 a challenge, I just
well, it was one bad matchup that's gonna become good because I'm gonna get Beseju, and then it was a mirror match, so it doesn't count.
It's gonna become good unless they have a stomping ground.
Like literally, Beseju fixes your worst matchup. So it was Amulet Titan, and these Oops All Spells decks were really tough. So I don't know.
Amulet Titan. Why would you say fixes Amulet Titan?
Because Amulet Titan was pretty bad for 4-color Omnath.
No, but you think that Beseju is that good against Amulet Titan?
I think it's a bounce land specifically. It's super good, yeah.
Okay. I don't know. They still get like Forest, flow mana, get back.
I don't know. I feel like getting the bounce land is a pretty big deal.
What about historic, Gab?
Oh, we have to put our. I'm gonna go with blue-white artifact. I don't know the exact build yet, but I believe in the new artifact. I had them at number 1. You also maybe get Lion Sash that can fit in and.
Yeah, you make me craft the Nettlecyst and Thought Monitor, I think.
Nice.
For me, I'm gonna choose historic, just get control. I already have a list ready.
All right. March. Any new cards besides?
For March. For March.
Okay.
Yeah, for March in the main and 1 Farewell in the side. Maybe you can do a main deck too, but I think that 6 is too much.
And then
only good against Black Green.
And then 1 Otawara and 1 Igancho.
No, I don't think so.
No, you can't. Yeah, the mana base is tough for.
Yeah. I have like 1 island, 1 because they play Archmage Charm, Anger of the Gods, and all these white cards. Yeah, I barely have 1 island because of Field of Ruin and 1 Hold the Storm Giants because that land is like better infinite times than Otawara. It's in the control deck.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and in modern. I keep on saying that my deck, the pet deck, is it Murktide. I love that deck. I think that even through a Ganjo, I think Blood Moon is still the way to go. I really like that. That deck is a Blood Moon deck, and sure, they play a Ganjo. You got a basic island. I know it's like, I don't know. I feel like Blood Moon is still the way to go for Is it Murktide, and if I had to win a tournament, that's the deck I'd play, but. I don't anymore, so I would probably play Crack the Earth.
Ooh, nice.
That's fun.
Have you ever played the Crack the Earth Mirror?
Yes.
With your life on the line, though?
No, with my life on the line, never. No, but on Magical Line, I did.
Okay, sweet. So now, what should we do the Price is Right on?
We did a preview card last week. We should do one of the preview cards.
What card did you do last week?
I forget.
Oh my gosh, I don't even remember. We did on the White Prismatic Ending.
Oh, come on. Don't do it on rares.
Do we have a mythic? Is there a mythic?
Tezzeret, maybe? Tezzeret?
Is Tezzeret even a mythic?
Maybe we can, Planeswalker. Maybe you can do Beseju.
Yeah, but it's not a mythic, but yeah.
Yeah, but Boseiju is gonna be expensive.
You can pick Mango. You're the guest. You want to do Boseiju over Tezzeret?
I want to do Boseiju. I have a price in my mind as well.
Okay.
I'll go first.
All right. Let me think for a second. All right. I have a price too.
What about Harry?
Okay, I've got a price. Okay, 3, 2, 1, 20.
30 euro.
When was 12 too? You said 12?
No, 20, 20.
Oh, 20. I went 12.
I said 30. All right, let's
How
check.
do you spell it?
BOSEI. Yeah.
Ooh. What did you say, Mengu?
30. Yes.
Okay, so the price trend is 27 euros and 2
Wait,
cents.
did you already order yours, Mangu? Did you game us? Did you know?
No, so I know, of course, people would say that now. I remember last time I was on, I also exactly got it, right?
I'm so bad at this game. I'm literally so bad at this game.
I buy cards like every day for real.
It's not fair.
Today I bought some.
We need a different game next time Mangu's on the podcast. We can't do price and price against Mangu. It's not fair.
It's just that I know the MKM market.
Oh, it should be like golf. We get a handicap, Mengu starts at like -5 or something, so we get to like do plus or -5 with our guess.
Honestly, so I have this thing where I build paper deck every day, basically. Like just today, I played a bunch of Paper Magic, and if I miss a card, I just immediately buy it because I don't want to find myself in the same spot of just not having a card.
But you won't craft analysis on Arena's Edge. Well, now you will.
You have the paper card. This is just you can't compare. Come on.
I'm teasing.
No, I know, I'm joking. No, it's just I have all these wild cards, but I don't want to use them. It's different.
Okay, sweet. Well, as always, thank you, Card Market, for having a marketplace for us to do. Price is Right is on. But as we are towards the end of the episode, Andrea, you are the guest this week. Why don't you let everyone know where they can find you on social media?
All right, you can find me on twitter.com under Mango09. I tweet a lot, really a lot. And also on Instagram, Mango09, a lot of Insta stories there too. And then on YouTube, that's my new place that I want to market, place that I want to really push. YouTube is Andrea Mengucci Video is my channel. And yeah, my thumbnail game is going up. I have a friend helping me and he's making some great thumbnail. He just sent me the Upso Spells thumbnail, and there's literally Goblin Charbelcher skyrocketing the meatball.
Interesting.
Yeah, the Goblin Charbelcher is like the bowl of lava, and it's like a meatball.
Nice. That's awesome.
I'm really excited for these new thumbnails on YouTube.
Awesome. Okay, Gab, where can we find you?
Yeah, twitch.tv/yellowhat. And I'm also going to push my YouTube. I got back on the YouTube grind. I might not be super interesting, the few videos, if you just listen to the podcast, because I did one about the historic meta, was my top historic picks for Kamigawa. I just recorded one kind of reviewing my last top 5 I did for Crimson Vow, see what I got right, what I got wrong, and also plan to do a top 10 modern one, but trying to post more content on YouTube, so you can find me there, yellowhat as well.
Wow, I feel like I've passed on my YouTube hype to you guys. I remember back in the day when I was here shilling my YouTube and you two were saying your Twitch, but I actually have no social medias to promote. I've kind of just gone dead on social media.
You can find Harry at university studying hard.
Yeah, like I messaged him once. He answered me like after 2 days.
Yeah, I know. I remember when I used to just live on like messaging. Well, I mean, yeah, true. I mean, I always have Hall of Famers DMing me for advice and stuff, so there's a bit of a queue. So, no, I'm joking. But yeah, I'm literally drowning in work right now, trying to balance everything, and YouTube takes a lot of time. So, I actually have been getting messages and stuff. I think I'll definitely go back to full-time Magic after June. I know that's a long time away, but I mean the game will still be around then. So for those curious, I'll be back full time after June. But
All right.
yeah, I mean, as always, Andrea, thank you so much for coming on as a guest. We really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andrea.
Yeah, and I guess anyone who's made it this far into the episode, as always, thank you so much for listening. Hopefully, Pat will be back next week. We'll catch you guys next time.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.